Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha. Are we in D? Okay. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Can you play? Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mishnapad Paramahamsa Parajikacharya Ashtotar the Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Mishnapad Paramahamsa Parajikacharya Ashtotar the Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudiret. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktim Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dvija, can you turn this down a little bit for me? Thanks. Okay. On the 17th day of March, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 7, What Prahlad Learned in the Womb, Text 26. Ebhis Trivarnai Paryastar Buddhi Bedai Kriyobhavai Swarupam Atmano Buddhyed Gandhar Vayum Ivan Vayat Ebis Trivarnai Paryastar Buddhi Bedai Kriyobhavai Swarupam Atmano Buddhyed Gandharvayumivan Vayat Ebhistrivarnai Paryastar Buddhi Bhedai Triyodbhavai Swarupamatmano Buddhyed Gandharvayumivan Vayat Ebhistrivarnai Paryastar Buddhi Bedhai Kriyodbhavai Swarupamatmano Buddhyed Gandharvayumivan Vayat Ebhistrivarnai Paryastar Buddhi Bedai Kriyodbhavai Swarupamatmano Buddhyed Gandharvayumivan Vayat Ebhistrivarnai Paryastar Buddhi Bedai Kriyodbhavai Swarupamatmano Buddhyed Gandharvayumivan Vayat Ebhistrivarnai Paryastar Buddhi Bedai Kriyodbhavai Swarupamatmano Buddhyed Gandharvayumivan Vayat. Ladies. Ebhistrivarnai Paryastar Buddhi Bedai Kriyodbhavai Swarupamatmano Buddhyed Ivan Vayat. Anyone online?
Ebhistrivarnai Paryastar
Ebhistrivarnai Paryastar
Buddhi Bedai Kriyodbhavai
Buddhi Bedai Kriyodbhavai
Swarupamam Atmano Buddhi
Swarupamatmano Buddhyed
Gandharvayum Ivan Bhayat
Gandharvayumivan Vayat. By these, Trivarnai, composed of the three modes of nature. Paryastai, completely rejected due to not touching the living force. Buddhi, of intelligence. Bedai, the differentiations. Kriya Udbhavai, produced from different activities. Swarupam, the constitutional position. Atmanaha, of the self. Buddhyet, one should understand. Gandhahi, by the aromas. Vayum, the air. Iva, exactly like. Anvayat, from close connection. Translation, Prahlad speaking to his classmates. As one can understand the presence of the air by the aromas it carries, so, under the guidance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can understand the living soul by these three divisions of intelligence. These three divisions, however, are not the soul. They are constituted of the three modes and are born of activities. Purport. So just to make sure you understand, the three divisions of intelligence are waking consciousness, dreaming consciousness, and deep sleep, dreamless sleep. Purport. As already explained, there are three states to our existence, namely wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. In all three states, we have different experiences. Thus, the soul is the observer of these three states. Actually, the activities of the body are not the activities of the soul. The soul is different from the body. Just as aromas are distinct from the material vehicle in which they are carried, the soul is unattached to material activities. This analysis can be considered by a person who is fully under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. This is confirmed by the Vedic injunction, Yasmin vigyate sarvamevam vigyatam bhavati. Mundaka Upanishad 1.3. If one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can automatically understand everything else. Because of not taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, even great scholars, scientists, philosophers, and religionists are always bewildered. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.232. Ye nyeda vindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavad avishuddha buddhayaha. Even though one may artificially think himself liberated from material contamination, if he has not taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, his intelligence is polluted. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3.42, Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhyak parang manaha manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. Above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence. And above the intelligence is the soul. Ultimately, when one's intelligence becomes clear through devotional service, one is situated in buddhi yoga. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamapi antite. When devotional service develops and one's intelligence becomes clear, one can use his intelligence to return home, back to Godhead. Now, the next purport is so conclusive. I'm going to read that also. Etadvaro hi sangsaro guna karma nabandhanaha agyanamulo partopi pungso swapna ivarpyate. Though polluted intelligence, through polluted intelligence, one is subjected to the modes of nature, and thus one is conditioned by material existence. Like a dreaming state in which one falsely suffers, material existence, which is due to ignorance, must be considered unwanted and temporary. Purport. The unwanted condition of temporary life is called ignorance. One can very easily understand that the material body is temporary, for it is generated at a certain date and ends at a certain date, after undergoing the 6 kinds of change, namely birth, growth, maintenance, transformation, dwindling, and death. This condition of the eternal soul is due to its ignorance, and although it is temporary, it is unwanted. Because of ignorance, one is put into temporary bodies one after another. The spirit soul, however, does not need to enter such temporary bodies. he does so only due to his ignorance of his forgetfulness of Krishna. Therefore, in the human form of life, when one's intelligence is developed, one should change his consciousness by trying to understand Krishna. Then one can be liberated. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4:9, where the Lord says, we can all chant together if you know this one, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatpataha chakva deham punar janma naiti mameti sorjana. One who knows in truth the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Close quote. Unless one understands Krishna and comes to Krishna consciousness, one must continue in material bondage. To end this conditioned life, one must surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, that is demanded by the Supreme Lord. Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. As advised by Maharaj Rishabdev, Nasadu manye yata atmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadeha. One must be intelligent enough to understand that although one's body is temporary and will not endure for long as one has a body, he must undergo the pangs of material existence. Therefore, if by good association, by the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, one takes to Krishna consciousness, his conditional life of material existence is vanquished, and his original consciousness, known as Krishna consciousness, is revived. When one is Krishna conscious, he can realize that material existence, whether one is awake or dreaming, is nothing but a dream and has no factual value. This realization is possible by the grace of the Supreme Lord. This grace is also present in the form of the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is for everyone to engage in welfare activities to awaken the foolish living entity, especially in human society, so that he may come to the platform of Krishna consciousness and benefit by liberation from conditioned life. In this connection, Srila Madhvacharya cites the following verses. Dukkha rupo pi sangsaro buddhi purvam avapyate yata swapne shiraschedam swayam kritvatmano vashaha tato dukkham avapyeta tata jagarito pitu janan apyatmano dukkham avashastu pravartate. One must realize that the material condition of life is full of distresses. One can realize this with purified intelligence. When one's intelligence is purified, he can understand that unwanted temporary material life is just like a dream. Just as one suffers pain when his head is cut off in a dream, in ignorance one suffers not only while dreaming, but also while awake. Without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one continues in ignorance and is thus subjected to material distresses in various ways. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So I saw that this purport kind of summarized the whole lesson that Prahlad is imparting to his classmates. And the thing that comes out in this whole section is the essential nature of having an access to spiritual knowledge and actually absorbing that knowledge and transforming one's intelligence by that activity. You may recall that Prahlad was analyzing, he's doing a little Sankhya yoga. He's describing to his friends what our real situation is. We have the senses, right? The knowledge acquiring senses and the active senses, 10 senses, and we have the results of the interaction of the knowledge acquiring senses with the environment, which produces the tanmatras, the 5 tanmatras, which you're very familiar with: sound, touch, smell, taste, fragrance, like that. So that's 15. Then there's the 8 gross and subtle material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. And this is what we're living in. This is our environment. And it's a construction. It's a material. It's all, of course, provided by Krishna, and is working under the 3 modes of material nature. Now, the key element is that we're human beings. There's 8,400,000 species and uncounted examples of those species. Trillions and trillions and quadrillions of living entities in this world. And in other worlds. They're all over the place. All this is huge. But it's not even the majority. Most living entities are nicely situated in the spiritual world, in Vaikuntha or in Goloka Vrindavan. We learned that from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we're in the minority. What is it, one quarter, I think? Something. But we're fortunate. We're very fortunate. Number one, because we're in the human form. And number two, because we've come in touch with the pure knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given in his books and his representatives like that. So that's our saving grace, if we take advantage of it. And that's what we're trying to do in our prosecution of devotional service. And this emphasis on the intelligence is really important. I remember when I first, encountered the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. You may recall, I think I've been mentioning this. The latter part of it answers Arjuna's question, Attakena prayuktakam papam charati purusha. What is it that forces one to perform sinful activities, even against his own intelligence? You may know it's wrong, but I can't restrain myself, right? So the answer is, the famous answer, kama esha, krodha esha. It's only lust, meaning not just sex desire, but any powerful desire that overcomes even your intelligence, knowing it's not good for me. I shouldn't take that, sixth pakora, but I can't help myself, or whatever. That's it. But more, more to the point, in conditioned life, you become under the control of powerful objects of the senses. Let's go for a drink. I'll just share something. I won't name any names. But we had a memorial here recently for one of you remember Diane Dimatis, and she was very helpful to preaching. When I came soon after I arrived here, I learned about a program she had up in Encinitas, for just going, a home program, And we used to go up there and chant, and then we'd have a little Gita class, and she had cooked prasadam, and these young people and sons, his son was there. And anyway, it was good. For years she did that. And so eventually she was quite a survivor. She got cancer, got cured from it, got another cancer, and that somehow went into remission, but she still was injured until she died. I think she was over 80 recently. So her son, Noah, who had become a professional yoga teacher and quite successful, but had to move to North Carolina. I talked to him when he came here. How did you get in North Carolina? He was situated in California, up in the LA area, because he had some children and he didn't want to be forced to give them vaccinations. So that was the only state in the country where you can take a kid to school and not have to vaccinate them. Anyway, he was moved there, but he couldn't practice his yoga anyway. So he came, and we arranged this memorial here, and the place was practically filled. I don't know if you were here, but there was all the chairs were used, and back here, and people sitting on the thing, and they were telling the remembrances, and I gave my recollection, and Ishtadev was here; he was part of it. Anyway, and then afterward, we had Sankarshan cook a big feast, and they gave a nice donation, for the whole thing, $700. And then we went out, and I was helping to serve out, and the patio was filled, and all this stuff was going. And then gradually it wound down, like that. And then I heard one of the guests say to Noah, I don't know if he agreed or not, but said, "Noah, do you want to come? We're going to have a drink." In other words, it wasn't exactly a devotional crowd. But they knew how much Diane was into it, and so they chose to have it here because it was so important. So it just brought to mind how, I mean, when I grew up in the 60s, I got involved a little bit in parties, and when I became 18, started drinking a little bit. I don't know, some of you may have had that experience. I had the great good fortune that, I really couldn't hold my liquor. I would get sick, which is great because I didn't turn into an alcoholic, But still, I would take a little bit at this times, and then I smoked some marijuana and this and that. And all around me, people were getting into addiction, and somehow or other, Krishna saved me from that. Because that is just, what addiction is just a very powerful grip of the modes of passion and ignorance on you. So that what does it mean? It overcomes your intelligence. I was always amazed, and Prabhupada even makes this point in the lecture. He says, what does it say on the pack of cigarettes? Smoking is injurious to your health, and it says hazardous, same idea, So that wasn't always there. I remember when there was a whole movement, they forced the cigarette companies to put that on the cigarette pack, But still, it's on there, but still people are smoking. That means that even though they know that it's injurious, they can't stop it. They're addicted, which means the senses have overwhelmed the mind and the intelligence for that thing, And so if someone is a little intelligent, he'll say, well, how can I get over this thing? And so you need to get in an environment voluntarily where you can't have that object. I mean, I have places I know for alcoholics like that. And you're with friends, or you're with other people who are also struggling and a little farther along. And by the association, you can get the willpower to stay clean. That's the whole idea. So Krishna consciousness is kind of like that, in one sense, because we understand that just regular, ordinary, so-called wholesome sense gratification is also like, a death sentence for the soul. Not that the soul will die, but then you have to come back and come back and come back, and then if you don't have any training at all, you're going to commit all kinds of sinful activities and suffer and go to hell for some time and all. But Krishna consciousness is the intervention. All these book distributors, and when you go out, we're trying to intervene in the people's syndrome of material life and inject some knowledge. The first thing is the knowledge. Actually, the first thing can be just hearing the chanting. Hearing the chanting of Hare Krishna affects you, And the most important effect can be a little intrigued about it. What are you guys all about, Well, here, take this little book, The Perfection of Yoga. How much is it? Well, you give what you can. Okay, it's $2. And that little Perfection of Yoga book has the absolute truth in it, in a way that's easy to digest. Prabhupada was ingenious. So the idea is, well, what happens when you read? Well, you're employing your intelligence. And most of the time, the intelligence is simply being affected by whatever modes of nature of the book you're reading or whatever is online, you know what I mean? But Prabhupada's books, or this environment, you're going to hear transcendental knowledge. You're going to hear something that can help you to strengthen your intelligence so that you can overcome the pushings of what's already in your mind, which is the attraction to the various kinds of sense gratification. This is really the dynamic of how you advance in Krishna consciousness. So I was thinking of several verses. One is the last verse, because Prabhupada quotes in this purport, Indriyani Paranyahar Indriyebhak Parangmanaha. That's in the 3rd chapter also, describing the hierarchy. Above the sense objects is the senses, but above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul, and above the soul is the super soul. Now, at the end of that chapter, Krishna says, Yad buddhi bedam, how does it get? He says that with your intelligence, understand that you're transcendental to the intelligence and conquer this eternal enemy known as lust. Now, the interesting thing is that in the next verse, the beginning of the 4th chapter, what does Krishna say? Imam vivastute yogam proktavan ahamam. Imam vivastute yogam proktavan avyam. Aham avyam. So Krishna is saying there, I spoke this yoga to the sun god, Vivasvan, right, millions of years ago. And then he spoke it to Vaivasvata Manu, who then spoke it to Ikshvaku, and then came down to human society. But now it's become lost due to the powerful force of time. Time causes everything. Entropy increases, right? So this is what in Kali Yuga. So now I'm going to speak it to you again because you're my devotee. So I thought, this thought came up to me, well, what yoga is that? He said this form of yoga. But the last verse simply said, with your intelligence, understand you're transcendental to the intelligence, and in this way conquer thee. So it's that yoga which strengthens the intelligence, which is Bhakti yoga. In other words, what is it? What are we actually doing? Don't forget that when we chant Hare Krishna, then you get the most benefit, obviously, if you hear very, very carefully. You're listening, right? That's the whole thing. Inattention is an offense. So to really get the most benefit, you're going to chant very, very distinctly and hear. And of course, it's best if you can, Trinadapi Sunachena, very, very humbly means you're calling out, supplicating to the Lord. Please engage me in your service. That's all there. But at least preliminarily to just hear the whole thing very carefully. That's a function of the intelligence, that concentration, that ability to concentrate. So what happens then? Then don't forget, what is that famous verse? Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So then it says, Vidimahindradistakitayat, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhavamahadavagnani Vavanam, Shreya Kaidavachandrikavanam, Vidyavadhu Jivanam. It is the life and soul of transcendental knowledge. In other words, the knowledge is already there. The knowledge is within us. Just like you're polishing the mirror. Well, the mirror in its pristine state is your mind, your clear mind, right? And by polishing that mirror, it means you're getting rid of your anartas, and you're conquering the ocean, or the forest fire of birth and death. That's what extinguishes it, is the process. But it goes on like that. And then it's very good fortune. It waters or it's like the moonlight that causes the night blooming lotus of good fortune to blossom in your heart, and also publicly as we serve it, as we share it. So then it's the life and soul of transcendental knowledge. So the point is that Krishna is in there as a super soul, and when we start chanting nicely, he's giving us instruction. I didn't have time to get the reference for this. It's the end of that same chapter that has Bhabantiye Bhagavatam Satam. The previous verse is a very famous verse in purport. I'll give you it afterward. Where Prabhupada is describing, by a little use of the intelligence, you can understand that the super soul is there in your heart, guiding your intelligence. That's what this is all about, you see? And so then after that, he has this beautiful verse, a metaphorical verse about drinking the nectar of Krishna Katha, and purifying. Pabantihe bhagavata atmanaksatam katamatam shavanaputesha sambitam punantite vishayavadushatashayam vajanti tachadana sudoruhantikam. You can hear the poetry if you know the meaning. So it's drinking. Pabanti, those who drink. What? Krishna katamritam, the nectar of Krishna Katha. Those for whom the Supreme Lord is everything. So, Pabanti bhagavata atmanaksatam katam shavanaputesha sambitam. Drink through the ear holes. What happens? Punantite. They purify the tendency to go for sense gratification. Vishayavadushatashayam. Contaminated, contaminations in the mind that keep you attached to sense gratification. And when it's completely purified, bhajanti tachadanasadorahantikam. They go or return back to the spiritual world near Krishna's lotus feet. And the previous verse is completely important, pertinent to our subject. Prabhupada gives a whole incredible purport there, how by a little use of the intelligence, one can contemplate that your intelligence is being guided by the super soul. Now he'll also tell you, if you want material things, he'll show you how to do that. But he's much more pleased if you're interested in coming to him, and he'll give you all kinds of inspiration for that also. So that's the yoga. That's the yoga that Krishna says at the beginning of the 4th chapter. That's the yoga by which the intelligence can become, and the mind can become your friends rather than your enemies. And I can't resist this verse because it's very pertinent. Kamadinam kadina kadita palita durnideshas tesham jata mayana karuna natapano prashanti utsrijayata nata yadupate sampratam labna buddhis twamayata ksharanamabayam mamdiyung svatmadase. And it's all about regaining your pure intelligence. So he says, in how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. So the intelligence is, that's not the end that is awoken. Then you have to employ it in imploring Krishna, and so that your whole life is really a prayer. Prayer, please engage me in your service and keep me engaged in your service, so I don't fall victim to material energy because of my uncontrolled mind and senses. That's really what Buddhi Yoga is all about. And Prabhupada says Buddhi Yoga really means Bhakti Yoga. So that the idea of dreaming comes in. This is one of the states of consciousness, right? You have waking consciousness, then you have dreaming consciousness, then you have deep sleep where you're not dreaming. That's the theme here. So that brought to mind this other verse, which I like to point out appears 5 times in the Bhagavatam. 5 times. Almost identically. But I mean, like 3 or 4 times is word by word, and one is a slight variation, but has the same meaning. So it's this same idea of waking from the dream of material life, and which is suffering. It says, Arte hividyamane pi sangshatirna navartate dhyayato vishayanasya swapne nartagamo yata. And if you'll allow me, I'm going to read this translation here from the 11th canto. For one who is meditating on sense gratification, material life, although lacking factual existence, does not go away, just as the unpleasant experiences of a dream do not. I'm going to read this short purport, which is very cogent. This is 11th canto, 22nd chapter, 56th verse, 11:22:56. One may object that if Lord Krishna insists that material life is false, then why should one endeavor to stop it? The Lord therefore explains here that although not factual, material life stubbornly continues for one addicted to sense gratification, just as a nightmare continues for one immersed in sleep. And your experiences in that nightmare can be very real. You can wake up screaming, right? People have heart attacks in nightmares. The word avidyamana, not existing, means that material life is based on mental concoction, in which one thinks, I am a man, I am a woman, I'm a doctor, I'm a senator, I'm a street sweeper, and so on. A conditioned soul enthusiastically performs his activities based on the imaginary identification with the body. Thus, although the spirit soul exists and the body exists, the false identification with the body does not exist. It's just like a dream. Material life based on a false idea has no factual existence. After one awakens from a dream, the dim reflection of the dream may linger in one's memory. Similarly, one engaging in the devotional service of the Lord may be troubled sometimes by the dim reflection of sinful life. One should therefore become strong in Krishna consciousness by hearing the Lord's instructions in Sri Uddhava. By reading any Prabhupada's books. So this, why is this verse repeated? Because it's a very important verse. Just like I mentioned, Tuliyama Lavenapi, just a moment's association with the pure devotee, that appears twice, and that means it's also very important. Manmanabhavamadbhakto Bhakto appears twice in the Gita, very important verse. So this is the key. Just knowing, the dynamics of what we're trying to do and what the struggles are, what the obstacles are, how we can overcome them, is a very important step in progressing in devotional service. And this is why Prahlad is giving it. He's giving this whole Sankhya lesson here, and then pointing out the nature of the essential nature of the intelligence in our effort to advance in devotional service. And just like we all know that vairagya is a very important element of devotional service. Not just tyaga, 4 regs, okay. But, when you begin, well, there's still some lingering desire there, but I know I shouldn't do it, right? But to get to the point of really not even wanting that, you can see how much safer that platform is, vairagya. And that's vairagya vidya. Why knowledge, which is a function of the intelligence, is corresponding to vairagya. That's the whole thing why they forced him to put the notice on there. Cigarette smoking can be hazardous to your health. Now that I think there's more, can damage this, and that, they try to really... Because with that knowledge, maybe that, will make you be, strong enough to give it up, or at least want to give it up and try to, go, and not, because it's bad for you. So again and again in the Shastra, we notice, it comes up how the dangers of hedonistic life. Prabhupada quotes that verse from, the famous verse from Rishabdev. Part of it, Nunam pamatta kurate vikarma yadindriya pridaya apnoti nasadamanya yadapano asannapi kleshanasade. I think he quotes the second one. So he's saying Nuna means certainly, without doubt, they're mad. Not just mad, pramatta, completely mad, intensely mad. Those who simply live for sense gratification. And inevitably, because of that, commit sins. Pamatta kurate vikarma. One has to know the difference between karma, akarma, and vikarma, right? That's in the 4th chapter, I think, also. What is karma? Karma in this context means fruit of activity according to the Shastra. Vikarma means fruit of activity that ignores the Shastra. And akarma means spiritual activity that doesn't produce any kind of karma, which is what you really want. So here, Rishabdeva says, one has to really be covered and intoxicated and mad to simply dedicate his life to sense gratification. Because, he says, nasada manye, in my opinion, it's not a good idea. Yata atmano yam, because then by that activity the soul ensures another birth, and that means ensures suffering. In other words, for a little flickering sense gratification, you're ensuring like how many years and how much intensity of suffering. It's a completely crazy bargain. It's not a good deal at all. But for Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada always says, well, you don't have to perform this Ashtanga yoga. You don't have to perform severe sacrifices or even severe austerities. There's no program where you have to go on, it's 40 degrees. Let's run in the ocean. We'll really make advancement. You could, but it's not prescribed. But the point is, that's not our program. The austerity ultimately is chanting Hare Krishna. How difficult is that? Prabhupada points it's very easy and pleasant. And when you get tired, take prasadam. And the result is the best result, quickly and easily. Even if you're a modern Kali Yugite, you can make advancement to devotional service. And if you're really serious, you can go back to Godhead. So this is Prahlad's lesson. And they're drinking it up, and they're going to be chanting. They're going to take it seriously, and which is just the last straw for Hiranyakashipu. And so he decides, I'm going to kill you myself. And so then he'll be defeated. Okay, any questions on any of these points? I can chant another poem for you. Prayer is so important. There's so many prayers in the Bhagavatam. Kunti's prayers, Bhishma's prayers, the Kumara's prayers. Everybody's got prayers. Why? Because the prayer is an acknowledgement that you are not complete, that you need something from the Lord. So the question is how to pray and what to pray for. And you find in the Bhagavatam that the prayers are generally, you'll find that they're for advancing in devotional service, and we find from almost always, and from the acharyas, you find the same thing. So here's a couple of prayers. This is one you may have heard me chant before. Pashupala Varenya Nandanao Varametang Maharati He Yuvam Bhavatu Pranayo Bhave Bhave Bhavato Reva Badambu Jeshume. So again, Bhave Bhave, just like Lord Chaitanya, not praying for liberation. O Radha Krishna, children of the best of cowherd men, this single boon I beg from you again and yet again. In all the countless births my endless sins will make me meet. Let all my love flow toward your luscious, lustrous lotus feet. Similarly, Kunti prays, famous prayer, Tvayame Nannivishaya Matir Madhupate Sakrit Ratamun Vahataradha Gange Bhaogumadanvati. Prabhupada chants these. I can give you this if you're interested. He loved these prayers, and there's a recording of him chanting all the Sanskrit. And when he gets to this one, it's really amazing. Tvayame Nannivishaya Matir Madhupate Sakrit Ratamun Vahataradha Gange Bao Kambudanvati. He's imitating the flow of the Ganges with his voice. So, O Madhu's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. Rupa Goswami, Bhujanga the Prachandakas, Buddha the Kanda Chudankare. You know all these words. Bhujanga the Prachandakas, Buddha the Kanda Chudankare. Nirangashta the Ganchada, Brahmina Bandha bring up Brahme. Patanga duhitustati, Vanakuti the Kedi Priye, Padas Buddha to Be Mahus Tavamukunda Shuddharati. Just a little sidelight, as Maharaj would say, on this verse. I knew the word Patanga. Patanga is used in the Bhagavatam again and again to mean moth. And it says Patanga. Patanga duhitu, the daughter of a moth? What is that? So I looked up the word Patanga in the dictionary. I have several Sanskrit dictionaries. There's some online if you're interested. And Patanga means, yeah, it can mean moth, but it means anything that's flying in the sky. You know, so in this context, it means the sun. The son of, who is the daughter of the sun? God. Kalindi. It's the Yamuna. So, what this means is, you wear the best of crests. No, yes. You wear the best of crests, a crown of perfect peacock plumes. Your dancing glances stun the bees meandering midst the blooms. You relish love play in a cottage by Kalindi's shore. O Krishna, may pure love for you be mine forevermore. So, what more do you need? This is, you know, when it says in the Bhagavatam, but the Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Mohodahodasika Bhuvibhavika, right at the beginning, third verse, you know. It says this Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of all the Vedic writings given by Vyasadeva. The Gamakalpatadorgalitambalam Sukhamukadamita, it was spoken by Shukadev, and therefore it's become even like a fruit. It become even more luscious, just like a peacock, not a peacock, but a parrot. If he pecks a fruit, it's said that it gets sweeter. I don't know if you've ever tried that out. But. So he says, oh, Rasikas, you should drink this nectar again and again. Pibata Bhagavatam, it's an imperative. Drink it. Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam, the juice of Bhagavatam. Aliyam, now here's a little editorial pastime. Aliyam, I said aliyam, I know what aliyam means, dukaliyam. It means an abode. But the Bhagavatam, Rasamaliyam. Okay, maybe it means the abode of all rasa? No. What it means, very important, the word is layam, just like Brahma. The word can mean up to and beyond. You see? Up to. So up to Brahma Loka, from Paltala to Brahma, is place of return in the Bhagavad Gita. Aliyam, up to and beyond liberation. Layam can mean devastation, in this case, devastation of your material life. So, but the Bhagavatam Rasamaliyam, drink this nectar of the Bhagavatam, even beyond liberation. Muhuraho, again and again. Rasika, oh Rasikas, you got to become a Rasika and be able to relish it, then you won't want to stop. But the Rasamali Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka, oh you who are most glorious on the earth. So that's, you know, it's interesting that the Bhagavatam is known to be the most exquisite poetry in the Vedas, you know. And right in the third verse, you get this wonderful nectar verse, you know, after heavy-duty verses. Here's the subject matter. Janmadjasya yaton vayaditatatashya. You know, this is defining. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktisiddhanta spoke on that verse for 3 months, I think, you know. But then the next verse is also very heavy, you know. Dharmak project the kaita voltra. This the word tra. I heard that, you know, Gopi Paramananda gave lectures on these first verses. If you're interested, they're very illuminating. Said the word tra, atra, appeared like 3 or 4 times in this. Atra means here in the Bhagavatam, kicking out all cheating religions, you know, and gone on and you know, describing the glories of the Bhagavatam. So what do you need any other literature? Just by listening shushu with very focused attention and submissive oral reception to the Bhagavatam, the Lord becomes manifest in your heart and you become God realized. What more do you need? Just read the Bhagavatam. And then the next verse, you know, it's also very pleasing to hear. So we should take advantage of that and purify our intelligence. And Prahlad's instructions here and his prayers, which are going to come in a chapter or two, are all very conclusive, and Prabhupada would quote them all the time. I remember the Gurukul actually were learning it because it was spoken by Prahlad as a child, so these are suitable, but this is high philosophy, you know, it's for these young kids to learn all this. Anyway, okay, I'll end there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, very nice sloka. And
Haribol, Manabai.
have you ever thought about recording it, Prabhu? This sloka is very nice.
I thought about it. I thought about it, and I did it. So you just write to me, and I'll send you a link, and I'll have all kinds of shlokas.
Oh, Jai, thank you so much, Prabhu. I would really like it. Thank you. Haribol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.